The Federal Reserve. It's like Fort Knox.
At any one time, there's anywhere between 500 and 800 billion dollars in there. Every millimeter of it covered by cameras, sensors, and motion detectors. Stand across the street and stare at the building for 2 minutes. You have security on your ass. Only bank that's never been robbed. That's why we're gonna rob it.
Every time I'm in the street, I hear yeah, 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 yeah.
Do you know what this means? It means I am a member of a gang. Only we have badges, which means you are done.
When I was 9, Joey
More of us. Do we look like the types who arrest you?
Might want to put that seatbelt on.
Put you in handcuffs, drag you down to the station.
you shooting for if you ain't walking. You walk.
We just shoot you. Boom. You're not the bad guys. We are.
Hello and welcome to Red and Sav Watch a Movie. This week we watched Den of Thieves, a movie that came out on January 19th of 2018, directed by Christian Gudegast and starring Gerard Butler, 50 Cent, Pablo Schreiber, O'Shea Jackson Jr., Evan Jones, and a bunch of other names you probably don't care about. It's, honestly, as far as heist movies go, this is one of the better ones I've seen in recent years, especially with regards to the twist at the end. For a short synopsis, you've got two groups that are going against each other. You've got corrupt cops in the LA Sheriff's Department who work major crimes, and you've got who are basically painted as the best bank robbers in Los Angeles. Who happen to be former Marine Corps forward operatives and amazingly skilled at what they do. But that doesn't really give much information about the movie. So, a warning before we start. Fucking spoilers! Essentially, the movie opens giving statistics about the number of bank robberies per year in the city, and how there's essentially an average of 3 bank robberies per day. And this, of course, leads directly into watching a group of masked men hold up an armored car. And it's a very exciting scene that culminates when one of the individuals behind a mask shoots a cop. And in the process, things get a lot more exciting. They end up mowing down 4 cop cars worth of cops in the process of stealing this armored car. This armored car, and specifically, it's a money mover armored truck. And the next morning, Gerard Butler's character comes to the scene of the crime.
Hungover so much, meets up with his FBI counterpart, and he's just like, cute suit, nice, very nice, very nice. Messing with him.
Yeah.
Unintentional, and it's just like, and suddenly it's like, hey, you're vegetarian, right? I'm vegan.
And they set the tone of the movie very efficiently at this point, because you can tell at this point they're not going to pull any punches or try and make any friends, especially these characters. Gerard Butler is literally eating a donut out of a box that exists in the evidence ring.
And then dumps the rest of it in the hot.
And these cops begin discussing the fact that the armored truck was completely empty. There was no money in it. So they're starting to wonder, why did these guys steal this armored truck? From here, we're introduced to O'Shea Jackson Jr.'s character. People might know him better as Ice Cube's son, or he did technically have his own place in Straight Outta Compton under the name OMG. But honestly, he made an amazing actor in this, and the character is introduced. You see Gerard Butler's character go sit in a bar, and O'Shea Jackson's character is the bartender, and one of the drunks at the bar asks, "How do you remember everyone's orders? I can barely remember what I ordered." And he says,
"I have complete control of my environment."
He says this, and then, he goes on a little bit of a spiel, and then he walks back. One of the persons he was serving left their keys and their ID and their security ID card on the counter, so he picks it up, looks at it, sticks it in his till, and closes the till. You're not meant to think much of it at the time, however, it ends up being one of the very few clues that hint toward the ending. The story, the first hour of the story is mostly about basically creating a comparison between the two leaders of the groups, because you don't get as much character development out of the other members of the sheriff's department or the other members of the gang.
It's Merriman versus O'Brien, Nick O'Brien, played by Gerald.
O'Shea Jackson's character, Donnie, getting picked up by the cops, usually very violently, the first time of which he's literally tased as he's getting into his car, punched, tased, and then dragged to a hotel where the sheriffs have hookers, tons of drugs and alcohol, and they tell him to sit down and fucking spill it.
Listen, do we like the guys that are gonna cuff you and bring you into the station? No, we're just gonna shoot you. Less paperwork.
And they fuck with the guy. Gerard Butler puts him in a headlock and nearly chokes him out. And you could tell O'Shea Jackson had to really fucking nearly pass out for that scene, because he's sitting there choking and spitting the entire time. He starts weaving this tale of how he was introduced to Merriman and how he's just the driver. The story cuts away a few times from the action and the corrupt copsmanship to show you Gerard Butler's character and give him some more depth. His wife, who honestly the least appreciable character in the entire film, he ends up, admittedly stupidly, sending a text meant for one of his hookers to his wife instead. Yeah. And his wife comes downstairs and says, "So, are you deleting your texts?"
I mean, honestly, the way she was going about it, it's like I was waiting for this particular one moment for evidence sake.
And then she immediately reveals that she had already prepared all of their kids' bags, both daughters' bags, and she was completely ready to take the kids away from him, and they just leave. And when he goes to hug them, she immediately picks them up out of range so he can't hug them. And when he goes to block the car, she just starts beating on him and punching him and screaming at him in front of neighbors who are outside and making a complete fool of herself. And I mean, here's the thing. I get why they put these things in movies. Oftentimes, you're supposed to sympathize with the woman because the guy's such a bad guy. But here's the thing. I didn't sympathize with her at all. She was a complete cunt. And I was really thinking,
I guys with Gerald Butler's character. And at that point, you know, the only thing I was thinking about watching that scene was just like, guys, I know this is gonna, but for one's sake, feminists are gonna get their thing and like put in a woman in your crew one time, have her be witness to this, and when a bitch like that goes off, I mean, the guy can't punch her because it's unsavory or anything, and he's gonna be fucked if he does. But have that female character walk up then after the bitch assaults the guy and just fucking punch her out so she needs a nose job to even breathe from that.
It would be very satisfying to see one of these manipulative, fuck them because they fucked up women get what they deserve after they show how utterly despicable they are. But of course, this leads to Gerard Butler's character being served with papers for divorce. It doesn't play out like these stories normally do. Normally, you've got a guy, he gets served papers and he's looking for ways to make it up to the woman so he can get back with his children. No, not in this case. Gerard Butler instead just goes around her back, goes to the school, and starts talking to the kids on his own, talking to the younger daughter on his own, showing his love for her, being as good a father as he can be, knowing full well he's a terrible person. They also have an entire scene in which he shits on her new boyfriend. Her new boyfriend comes
back to and literally signs the divorce papers in front of her. His boyfriend is such a fucking beta cock. He's just so fucking pitiful when you look at him in comparison to Gerald Butler, which is, I mean, okay, this guy is no longer the Phantom of the Opera when he was slim and whatnot. He's gotten bulky with age. But the thing is, the man is tall enough to still be a man and be well looking at it. Mm-hmm. This guy is just like, what is he, a fucking yoga teacher or some shit? That's how he looks. He's like fucking beta. And the neighbor that actually witnessed the scene go down, he's on there saying, you're another fucking beta on top of things, and your wife and this bitch that's divorcing him, You look worse than my biology teacher. You old, dry fucking cunts. Because you know what? My biology teacher, she was a spinster that had crooked teeth. But she was a nice person. And she looked much better than you with her crooked teeth. You two bitches just look fucking disgusting. You both deserve a good smacking.
If there's one
I mean, that's
word-
what I felt throughout the scene. You know what? I think she was doing it until she got what she wanted, essentially. It was something she could bring out before the lawyers as per for divorce and alimony purposes. Because let's face it this way, if he was more around than he was, she wouldn't have gotten that.
Yeah.
She wouldn't have gotten her fucking cunty boyfriend. Because when?
Oh, yeah, by the way, that cunty boyfriend, when did she meet him, by the way? Because as far as we could tell in the story, it was only about 3 fucking days. There had only been 3 days that passed between her leaving and him being served and then going there later that night to sign the papers in a drunken stupor.
Cheating, and the only reason she could have, because he was gone. So,
The action scenes in this are fucking amazing. They spend, the first hour of the movie setting up this very, very complex story in which you see them going to the Federal Reserve. You see O'Shea Jackson's character setting up for the end of the movie by getting a job with a Chinese delivery place that commonly delivers to the Federal Reserve. And he takes 2 bags of food with him, but he only has to deliver 1. He hides another one up in the light in the bathroom. And then everything turns around right around the halfway point of the movie when they're told that they're going to be hitting up this small bank, Pico Rivera, and you end up there. They're scoping out the situation, waiting for the crime to be committed, and the FBI and the police rush in, guns and lights blazing, and start chewing out Gerard Butler as he constantly gets chewed out through the movie. And basically, while all the cops are distracted, planning, there's an explosion inside the bank. Except they didn't steal anything from the bank.
They actually blew up the vault.
They blew a hole in the vault down into the sewers. And in this time, Gerard Butler goes through the sewers trying to figure out what's going on. And meanwhile, Merriman's crew is going through, and they are on their way to the Federal Reserve with the stolen truck from the beginning of the movie.
At the same time, you can actually feel the stress that Merriman's crew is going to executing this theft, because things are not going normally. They're being held back in security. They're being held back earlier. They finally get away, and we get this shootout on a highway that's being chalked up in the hours that.
So they're waiting for them to move. They see O'Shea Jackson's character come out and is walking down the road. They pull him, they pull their truck in front of him, bash him against the fence, beat his face in, pull him into the truck, and start demanding to know where they're going to be. And you end up with a situation where the road is completely backed up, and the robbers and the sheriff's department are about 30 cars away from each other, which evolves into one of the most brilliant shootouts I've seen in a film in some time. And the setup for this was absolutely stunning. The skill and practice that they put into showing off 2 different forms of military functionality between Marine-style training with heavy weapons on Merriman's side, and the sheriff's department doing everything they can to play it as safely as possible for all the 60 cars between the 2 vehicles within the fight.
Oh, it's not only that. If you noticed it, Merriman intentionally set his gun to fire to the windshields when he knew that the sheriff would have people lower their heads. He didn't want to hurt civilians. This was a literal thing said at the beginning of the movie.
Right.
These guys only shoot at uniforms. They don't shoot civilians.
Pretty much. And I mean, so many fine details like this, and it ends with most of Merriman's crew being killed, save O'Shea Jackson's character and a Samoan whose character's name I remember less than O'Shea Jackson Jr.'s character.
Remember the nasty nickname Butler gave him? Fraulein.
Yeah, Fraulein, yeah. That's how I remember him. He fucking A, Fraulein. So you get to the end, and Fraulein escapes the truck that he was handcuffed in, and Butler's character can't fucking get his head around it. And this is where the twist just caught me and made me realize, oh my god, I fucking love this movie. Because our dear weaponized autism, I am completely in control of my environment bartender, was the person who had kept them informed of all the details about the Federal Reserve, was the one who was manipulating both sides of the argument. It was fucking perfect. And they show him going through, getting the crew together. He was just as much a part of the soccer team as everyone else was, and was also in the same military unit as the rest of them. And in the end, O'Shea Jackson's character has his own bar in London. And he's already planning...
And he's scoping out another target.
A diamond exchange. Alright, so let's actually cover, some of the things we didn't like about the movie. First, I'll let you start, because, yeah.
There's a few plot holes, because we actually don't see how O'Shea Jackson, aka Fraulein, managed to actually exchange the bills for shredded bills. That's kind of weird. I mean, you can get a hint, because he's shown curling to the ventilation tunnel, and he suddenly starts looking at his little maps on... wipers, these little tissues they give in a bar. Yeah, and the napkins, and you can think that's the reason he was looking at them was to find the exit point to pick up the shredded ones additionally, and maybe that's how he did it. It's hard to say there.
Yeah, and then, there's also, they could have done better in fleshing out some of the other characters. Aside from Merriman and Butler and Fraulein, you don't really get a good idea of the rest of the crew. You just kind of see them as extensions of those characters who represent their entire crew. I really thought they could have spent a little bit more time fleshing out these characters and giving them life. That said,
because when they get killed, you don't really care.
Yeah, and that really bothered me, because some of the best action scenes I've seen in an action film, in a thriller film in some time, and yet the impact was lost, because I can't tell these fuckers on Merriman's team apart, except for the one guy, the severely white guy with the fucking bald head and mutton chops. He's the only one I can distinguish from the rest. Call me a racist, but when the entire team is Samoan, except for the two white guys, well, I'm sorry, I'm going to be able to easily identify the white guys. And again, bringing up the ex-wife, the wife who became the ex-wife, I really, really couldn't stand her as a character. Not that it takes away from the movie. If anything, I think it only gives Gerard Butler that much more drive to focus on his work. Right? Because it's clear Gerard Butler loves his kids, and that his wife is just waiting for him to fuck up.
She's literally waiting for that loan, because, again, when could she, if he was at home and she couldn't get at him, when was she supposed to get the fucking lover to be with him? It's like, bitch, you planned this out and you were only waiting for it because you have bags packed to leave, you have your car keys around, you pretty much immediately have a lawyer serving papers. She was just waiting for the evidence to get a divorce and alimony. And look at the house he actually bought her, which she's probably gonna get anyway.
Oh god, that was a fucking amazing house too. We're talking a 2-story home, multiple rooms, really fucking beautiful.
Yeah, fancy shit.
As far as my favorite scenes, my god, that shootout and chase scene at the end, just takes the cake. That kind of shootout doesn't tend to be as good when it's placed in the Middle East in most movies. And they were able to pull it off with 30 cars between the sheriff's truck and the robber's truck. And then a chase through alleys to another road. And the ending of that was just beautiful, with just before Merriman dies, he looks up at him and says, "I told you," and he dies. And Butler's like, "Yeah, you dead." A solid thumbs up from me. How about you?
I like it. I really do.
I recommend seeing this film,
It's
especially
80s style. I like movies like that. It's
especially
fine, like,
it's the kind of movie you want to watch if you appreciate men being men, and unabashedly so.
Yeah.
Which is most certainly
honestly,
something I
I'm
love in
thinking that
films.
Butler is the way when you look at his roles, he seems to be set on being the last man standing in Hollywood that's under 60.
Yeah. So yeah, go see it, and we will catch you next
Looking
week.
forward to the sequel.
Yeah. And we'll catch you next week for another Red and Sev Watch a Movie. Mwah.
Bye.